Coach Andre, and today's topic is about ketogenic diet supplement called Ketoba. This new product is very promising, so let's get more information about it. Stay tuned. So Franco, thank you so much for having me here. I'd like to ask you, can you tell us a few benefits of taking like Ketoba? Can you introduce basically this supplement to public?
Well, Ketoba is primarily designed as a substance that will support long-term energy or physical endeavors such as endurance activity. We've designed it in such a way where it can support explosive activity. But there's a big controversy in the marketplace with regards to exogenous ketones and their applications. And we hear a lot about weight loss and ketones, and I think the controversy is valid. If you're on a ketogenic diet, for example, you're expected to be utilizing fat as an energy source, or so-called burning fat as an energy source, and that's in many ways true. Through beta oxidation, the liver will actually convert fats into ketones, and the appearance of ketones, or elevated serum ketone bodies and serum ketone, is indicative of the body burning or oxidizing fat. What typically happens subsequently is the ketone gets used as an ATP substrate, and you burn off this energy or substrate in exercise. So you do have to engage in physical exercise to expend the calories. I think the fallacy comes when people are saying if you raise serum ketone levels through exogenous ketone sources, that you're automatically burning fat.
Which isn't true, right?
It's not true at all.
Okay.
Ketones themselves are ATP substrates, as we said earlier, so there's an inherent caloric value. If you take 100 grams of ketones, for example, and typically that's a very high dose, typically we see anywhere from 10 to 20, you're impacting the body with calories. You have to burn those calories off.
So you can even gain fat, right?
Well, generally, theoretically, you're adding calories to your daily intake. So that can be stored as adipose fat. Bottom line is that you have claims where people are saying, I've seen my serum ketone levels rise, and that means I'm in ketosis. And that's not really the overall definition of ketosis. That means you have hyperketonemia, meaning you've raised serum ketone levels. But if glucose levels are still high, the cells will try to navigate to use glucose as a primary energy source. So in order to really be in a ketogenic state, that's true ketogenic state, you have to lower serum glucose while raising serum ketones. And that really involves the typical ketogenic diet, which is high in fat, low in carbs, no more than 50 grams daily. And
so basically, we have to still keep carbohydrate intake low, do you mean? If you're taking Ketoba?
Well, with Ketoba, with any ketogenic initiative, yes, you want to keep ketone or your carbohydrate intake low. Now, personally, I take Ketoba daily. My diet is actually very low in carbs, probably 100 to 110 grams.
But you don't have to be on zero, right?
Zero. I don't believe in a complete zero carb.
Me either.
There's great value in the zero carb diet as a therapy for cognitive deficits, epilepsy, even chronic insulin resistance and type 2 diabetes. But the reality is that the body requires some amount of carbohydrate in order to spare protein for anabolism, and especially if you're physically active. If you're involved in rigorous activity, you really have to take a post-workout meal that has a carbohydrate load to regenerate.
You want to be miserable during your diet, because you should enjoy your diet. No, feel like so down and miserable for sure.
But again, the ketogenic diet, if you're well tuned and know how to utilize the diet and apply it, it's sustainable. The first 3 to 5 days can be quite difficult for most people. But the reality is that is when an exogenous ketone product can work very well, even for someone involved in a strict ketogenic diet, is when you're going back into ketosis. Because we all know that it can take anywhere from 2 to 5 days, 3 days typically for an individual to get into complete ketogenic state. And during that transition, you have that flu-like, carb depleted state that can be a little bit difficult for people, because the brain can immediately use fat as a source of energy. It
Got
has
it.
to rely on, beta oxidation by the liver to use the fat, create the ketone, and then the ketone, being in, aqueous soluble, it can actually transfer and cross the blood-brain barrier, and then the neurons can use it as an energy source. But ketones in general as an energy source are quite efficient and quite effective. In fact, the cells can produce as much as 40% more ATP per carbon of ketone versus glucose. So it's quite efficient, and it's said that you have a reduced oxidative load on the cells when the body or the cells are actually utilizing ketones. But Ketoba, for example, I believe plays a tremendous role in the ketogenic diet and the non-ketogenic diet for therapy and for performance, because Ketoba is very different than the common ketone. It's a ketone body coupled to butyric acid. Butyric acid plays an exclusive role. Butyric acid, first of all, triggers or is a ligand for many of the receptors that BHB is a ligand for. So, and this is one of the critical things to keep in mind. These compounds don't only serve as ATP substrates for your cell as alternatives to glucose, but they're also ligands that are signaling agents to your cells. And so as signaling agents, they actually cause your cells to change how they behave so they can adapt to your environment. And so they have anti-inflammatory activity. They help stimulate mitochondrial activity and efficiency. So there's a lot of things that happen when you take an exogenous ketone that's beyond just the ATP substrate.
I really like benefit for pre-diabetes or for diabetes actually.
Insulin resistance.
Oh yeah?
The butyric acid is shown to improve blood sugar clearance. So how does this factor into ketone utilization? If you're really serious about a ketogenic diet and you use the Ketoba product, which is a ketone coupled to the BA, butyric acid, what you're doing is you're facilitating blood sugar clearance and prevalence of the ketone in the serum so that it can be used as a primary source as an ATP substrate over the glucose. So, that's one main way to utilize Ketoba over regular exogenous ketone. And the other way, again, for me, I use it as a pre-workout agent for a fasting workout in the morning. I get up, don't eat anything, take my full saturation dose of Ketoba, which is again BA, which is a fatty acid. Now remember, this is a very different fatty acid than the medium chain triglyceride. This is a short chain fatty acid that's utilized very quickly, does not cause gastrointestinal disturbance, because it also has an anti-inflammatory effect on the gastrointestinal lining, in addition to serving as a direct ATP substrate for the colonocytes, which are the cells lining the colon. So one of the cool things about Ketoba is that it facilitates rehydration of the body by improving electrolyte and water reabsorption in the colon. So for athletes, this is paramount, because one of the challenges you have with ketones, especially coupled to MCT in a formula, is that can distress the gastrointestinal tract and cause dehydration and water loss. So I mean, there's great applications to all these things, and they all have different advantages and disadvantages. But we believe Ketoba will serve most people well in both the ketogenic diet and the non-ketogenic diet to improve health and performance. So the way I'm using Ketoba successfully and the way we've seen our marketplace utilize it successfully is I love using it in the morning before my workout. And that's because the workout is fasted. And in that way I know that although the ketone will serve as a substrate for ATP.
So you mean for your weight training or for your cardio?
Both cardio and weight training. And what you'll find, this is what you'll find, is that you'll get engaged in your weight training program or cardio. Cardio is where you get a little more mesmerized, where if you're used to doing 35, 40-minute cardio and your body and your mind are conditioned to that, so you start to feel your fatigue by 35 with your intensity up. When you're on Ketoba, that doesn't happen until around 50 or 55 minutes. So you tend to push your body beyond what you're normally used to. And part of that reason is that you don't have to wait, especially in a fasting workout, you don't have to wait for your body to engage in beta oxidation to actually utilize ketones in that workout. So as you know, if you have carbohydrates that have been stored as glycogen, the body will try to burn off glycogen first. But if you had, for example, a cup of coffee before that workout, that will help or facilitate the body to actually use fat as an energy source prior to using your glycogen source. So it spares your glycogen, spares muscle.
That's good.
But what happens with Ketoba is now you have a facilitator of beta oxidation. That's BA. Butyric acid actually activates hepatic activity towards beta oxidation of fats. And so now you have ketone generation very early on in the activity to supply the ketones and allow you to engage in that activity for a longer period of time. And that literally trains your body to burn fat. So one of the things that I think people fail to understand with using exogenous ketones is, first of all, as I said earlier, one, it is an ATP substrate, so it has caloric impact. But when you use it regularly, it does train your cells so that when you engage in a ketogenic diet down the road, you will switch over to the ketones as a source of energy faster than you would normally switch over. So your body's already trained in a beta oxidative environment to induce beta oxidation, so it tends to switch over sooner. And then again, you have that bridging that the Ketoba will serve as a ketone source, so exogenous ketone source, plus a signal for beta oxidation, so it facilitates the ketogenic application. So the way I'm using Ketoba currently is I'm using a 5-gram dose in the morning, and then a 2.5 to 5 gram dose in the afternoon if I need more to maintain that ketogenic state. Now remember, again, when I say ketogenic state, this is not a true ketogenic state, simply because we're using an exogenous source of the ketone. But again, the butyric acid will help you. So when you take the ketone with the butyric acid, and again, this is a ketone body because this is a BHB, with the butyric acid, what you're doing is you're training the body to actually stay away from carbohydrates. You'll find you won't crave carbs throughout the day, and your body will be trained to utilize fat. And
so basically you can use for control your appetite as well.
Appetite control and causing the body to use fat as a source of energy through the ketone more efficiently.